Let your brother count on you every play tonight. Okay? And come out and have fun. The gates are locked. Ain't nobody getting out now. They can't run. The gates are locked. Let's bring the fight to them, guys. Yes, sir. All right, brother. Let's pray.
The Northeast Texas Sports Network is dedicated on delivering the most entertaining sports broadcasts in East Texas. And if you're interested in having your next sporting event streamed live, visit us online at NETSN.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the bEast from the East show. It's week 7. It's Mr. NETSN Brett Swinney alongside me, Mr. Red Zone OT, KO Kyle Owens. How's it going, Kyle?
Doing well, sir. I'm doing well. How are you?
Man, ready to talk about some craziness in the world of football. I mean, the college game was pretty crazy this weekend as well, but the high school games, there was some very interesting games to talk about. And Kyle, we had pretty different strategies last week. Let's be honest. You were throwing Hail Marys. I was trying to go with who I thought was going to win, and neither one of them worked. I don't know. We gotta get a better mixture this week, Kyle.
Yeah, no, I a couple of them that I thought were locks to win, which is, I know the first game we'll talk about was one of them. A couple of them I thought were locks that were going to get me wins, didn't, and then a couple of them surprised me with the Henderson one and Tatum losing. Those kind of shocked me, but I snuck those in because I picked against my head there. Those are the Hail Marys. So yeah, it was a weird week for high school football, and then Saturday followed it up with another wacky and wild Saturday. And football is great, man. Football is awesome. I love football.
You just never know what you're going to get. Never know what you're going to get. Hey, so we've got to look at our pick'ems. We didn't have 10. Still haven't had that 10 out of 10 yet all year.
I like that.
10. That's awesome. It means we're picking some good games. So the winner this week was 9. It was Jason Valatero. Yeah.
Valatero.
So the only one, we had a couple with 8. Derek Del Rio, one of our longtime listeners, Matthew Walford, Mr. Powers. Is that Austin Powers? And Randy Leroy and Scott Poole. So that was our top, I guess, top 6, because that was everybody else had 7 and below. So, I mean, when Corey Marshall gets 7 out of 10, I'm surprised he's not on tonight. When Corey Marshall gets 7 out of 10, the week was crazy.
Yeah, that's wild. I went 4-6, so it was a rough week for me. But I knew that going into it. I knew that with my strategy, it could make or break me, and it broke me last week. But you know what? We keep throwing. We keep chunking Hail Marys. We're gonna throw them again tonight. We're gonna throw them again.
Maybe you should pick more strategically on your Hail Marys, Kyle, not just throw all Hail Marys. Because I mean, of course I did what thought I was going to do pretty good, and I ended up with 5 and 5. I wasn't much better than you, so luckily I'm still up there ahead of everybody in the NETSN thing. I think Corey made a little move this week, but so far we'll go over the overall standings once we get done with our talking about games. But game 1 was Alba Golden and Bogota Rivercrest, and man, I thought Alba Golden had this one, man. But they couldn't get the win, and Rivercrest stays undefeated. I really wasn't sure what Rivercrest had, so honestly, I just saw how good Alba Golden was and who they played, and the games that they had competed in were pretty good. I'm really surprised here, Kyle. Do you know anything more about Rivercrest and kind of how that game went?
No, I don't. But I did say last week that the way that Alba Golden seemingly struggled with Como Picton, I know they won by 14, but Como Picton's had a down year this year, and I really thought the way that Alba Golden beat Overton. I mean, that's Overton's lone loss this season was to this Alba Golden team early in the year. I just thought that they were kind of trending in that right direction, but that Como Picton game kind of worried me a little bit. I honestly did not, what is that? A 12-point loss to Rivercrest. I did not see that coming.
Yeah.
I didn't, and because I think what threw me off with Rivercrest, was the Quitman game when they beat Quitman just 25-12. But I mean, I guess Quitman's a little better than we give them credit for. But yeah, a little surprised on this one. I think Alba Golden's still going to make the playoffs. When you look at the district that they're in, Cooper, who we talked about struggling going into District 1 and 3, they're suddenly 2-0 along with Honeygrove atop the district standings right now. Rivercrest at 1-0, and then you got Alba Golden at 1-1. Alba Golden's already beat Como Picton. I think they can handle Pewitt and Quinlan Bowles. So Alba Golden's still a playoff team, but it's going to be difficult now. They're going to be fighting for that third and fourth spot, trying to get up there. I think it's going to come down to probably. I think it's still Honeygrove and Cooper. I'm not going to give up on Cooper just yet. I'm not going to give up on them yet. But I think Honeygrove's probably the best team in this district.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. That we kind of thought they might be a little closer. I kind of thought maybe it was Alba Golden and Honeygrove there were going to be fight, but I guess either they had a. Of course, they were on the road too. It was in Rivercrest, so I always give a little advantage to the home team there. But tough loss there. I had Alba Golden. I think, did you have them as well, Kyle?
Yeah. That was one that I said I'm not going to pick the upset. I'm going to go with who I think is really going to win this game. And
I should have went with the Hail Mary myself then, I guess. And
we said Hail Mary. Rivercrest was undefeated. I mean, I didn't.
True.
I didn't realize that they were undefeated. I guess when I was, I don't know what I was thinking.
Well, that's how it goes. Game 2, one of the games I was kind of keeping an eye on while we were doing our game was the Jefferson Atlanta game, and man, Jefferson put it to them 43-14. It was pretty close early, and then just Jefferson too much. This is going to be an interesting district with those teams. I did pick Jefferson. I thought Jefferson would win. I just didn't expect it by this of a dominant of a fashion. But shout out to Jefferson, man. They're really rolling, and they got my respect this week in the poll. I believe they moved up in my rankings of the poll. We'll talk about here in a little bit. But I mean, you beat an Atlanta team that's a really good team like that. You just take them to the woodshed. It's impressive to me.
Yeah, I think I said last week that I wasn't overly impressed with Atlanta. I wasn't on the Atlanta bandwagon like you were. And so I picked Atlanta to win the game. That was one of my losses. But I think this says more about Jefferson. I think we kind of have overlooked Jefferson a little bit because they're kind of up there in that Northeast area. I know we're Northeast Texas sports. I get it, but they're kind of far up there, and we kind of forget about them a little bit. But they're quietly 6-0 with some good wins on their schedule. I think they got White Oak next week. I think they'll handle that. Then Sabine the week after that. I think you end with Liberty Ilo and Tatum. I think Jefferson probably wins this district and gets the 1 seed going into the playoffs. But I think we need to pay a little more attention to this Jefferson Bulldog football team.
Yeah, I think Jefferson and Liberty Ilo are on a collision course to play for that district championship there. This is going to be interesting, though. Very tough district. The next game, another one. I thought Alto. Oh, by the way, Alba Golden was picked 33 out of 20 out of the was that 58 picks. So Alba Golden was the favorite that lost. Jefferson did get 50 out of the 58 picks, so they were the favorite there. But this next game, one of the upset specials of the week, Grapeland, according to the Pick'em, they only had 7 people pick them, and they beat undefeated Alto in a really, I didn't say surprising because I know Grapeland's a good team, but just a little shocking that the score 20-6. I mean, it was pretty. The two touchdown game in Alto. That's a good win for Grapeland right there, and they're on a good roll here lately. Kyle, I know you had Grapeland because that was one of the picks you got right there because it was your upset special. What do you think about this win for this Grapeland Sandies?
Well, I think I said last week too when we picked it that this wasn't that far fetched of an upset. I thought Grapeland had a really good football team. Their 2 losses this year by a combined 8 points. They've really been a good team, and what I saw Friday night from this Grapeland team made me even more a believer. I think I gave them a little extra love in the poll this week. I gave them a vote to get in the poll because this Grapeland team, Brett, I'm telling you, the first few games of the game of the week this year, I sat up in the press box, trying to be Brandon Ogden, Dirt Sheet Brandon, and be up there and take stats and do all that. These last couple of weeks, I've got down in the trenches. I've got down on the sideline and pulled like my good buddy David Barber with the Van Zant News. I'm down there on the sidelines. I'm in the trenches, and I really enjoy that because you get a feel for the game. You get a feel for the intensity. You can hear the pads clacking. You can hear the trash talking going on. Like you're in the game. So when I tell you these boys
game from down on the field, maybe I should get a travel kit and broadcast maybe a camera on my head, broadcast straight from the field. That would be kind of cool.
It would be a legit awesome broadcast. But when I tell you these boys were hitting Friday night, they were hitting. Like JR would say, it was good old fashioned slobber knockers. I mean, it was both teams were tattooing each other. Grapeland, I think, was laying a little more wood than Alto was, but it was. And Grapeland, it was an old school football game. Like, I don't know if you've ever been to Alto's field, Cameron Matthews Field in Alto. It is old school. I mean, there is dirt.
Turf? Grass?
No. Yeah. Dirt. There's dirt and there's dirt divots at midfield on both sides. There's some dirt divots at the 25. It's just old, and it's not a bad field. It's just old school. The stadium's old. Like, it's just an old school feel. And what we had Friday night in this game.
Do you hear that? What is that?
The NFL films.
Wait. I think someone's entering someone's entering. It's the professor. Darth
Death March. I apologize. I'm a little late than I wanted to be, but the doctor mandated physical therapy for me and anybody else who picked Rockwall over Longview this past week after trying to remove the boot that Washington single-handedly put up all of Rockwall County. Man, so I'm still rehabbing, guys. So I apologize.
Well, it's good to have you on, Professor. We've missed seeing you. I know you've been busy and your dumps that take 3 or 4 hours every Friday night that hopefully
That's the
everyone gets.
problem, And Kyle was a little confused at that. Yeah, little fiber.
Wait a
right?
second.
Right,
The
KO?
Diggs dumps. You never seen his dumps over on Twitter?
I know what you're talking about. I just think a little extra clarification was needed there with that.
No, those that know, right, Professor?
That's right. If you know, what is it? As a kid, say IYK, TMZ, and TikTok.
We're just talking about
What's up, Diggs?
We're just talking about our pick'ems this week. You have that is one of our games. We haven't got to that game yet. I believe I can talk some smack then. If you didn't pick the East Texas team, then you lost that one. So I'm sorry, Diggs.
That's rough, but you know what? I think we're gonna have a bounce back this week. It's hard to. I mean, I'm sure y'all did the research being the beast for the East, but if Longview's lost 3 at home anytime recently, 3 in a row at home, I don't know when it was. Two is bad enough. It's bad enough that Ruston is already basically the Texas State champions coming over here beating Longview and Stephenville and Midland Legacy. But Longview was just tired of it. They were tired of seeing people go to Lobo Stadium and take care of business. But little old 5A Division II South Oak Cliff did it, so thought Rockwall could do it.
Little old that, yeah, like
little old South Oak Cliff.
Little old South Oak Cliff.
Man. All right, so we were talking about Alto and Grapeland, and Kyle, I think looking at this district, man, it's going to be a battle. I mean, you've got a big matchup for Grapeland next week as they go and they take on Mount Enterprise next week at home. I've heard, I don't remember the name of the running back, but I've heard big things about the running back. What's his name? Mount Enterprise.
Keegan Ash.
Yes, and so I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited to see how that game goes. But this district with Overton, Alto, Mount Enterprise, Cushing, Tenaha, Lovelady, and Grapeland is going to be it's going to be tough to make it out into the playoffs in this district.
I think Cushing and Tenaha are out of it, but outside of that, everybody else is fighting. There's 5 teams fighting for 4 spots, and I don't know out of those 5, I don't know the one that's missing. I mean, Mount Enterprise undefeated right now, Overton with 1 loss, Alto with 1 loss, Grapeland's 2 losses by 8 points. We've already talked about that. Lovelady's dominant. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. We'll have a good idea to see what Mount Enterprise and Grapeland do this week, but yeah, this is a tough district.
And Overton goes to Lovelady, a possible game on NETSN. We're trying to get that game on the network. So Jaren's working on that. But so we'll have a couple of good games up this week to see kind of where that district hits.
Let me tell you, Mr. NETSN, every year there's one team or one district that completely confounds me when I'm doing my pick'ems. Last year was ARP and everything ARP. I could not get it. This year it's Alto. Like I just can't figure out Alto for the life of me. They've got high highs and low lows, so you can't count them out. But at the same time, like you said, you're looking at this district and you're like, who are they going to beat? And from week to week, it's just. It's a slugfest in 11-2A, and it's fun. And I think that they'll have a really good chance to have some success in the first round of the playoffs, whoever makes it out of this district.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough one. The next matchup, we had Tatum and Liberty Allo, and man, the Tatum Eagles let me down this week. I was riding with Tatum. I guess I've been drinking too much of Jaren's Kool-Aid with Tatum. But Liberty Allo, man, took it to them this week. We had that game. That was another game we were kind of keeping an eye on. And I'm sure, Kyle, you got this one right since you basically went against everything that I said last week. I don't know if you got to catch the show last week, Professor, but Kyle threw a lot of Hail Marys last week. So if I picked it, pretty much he went against me. And neither one of us did really well. So it didn't really work out too well.
Well, if it makes you feel better, I took Atlanta in an upset, and you can see how that worked out for me, -29. I took Tatum by 3, and I took Gladewater. So at least I got one right.
Yeah. Listen, man, I was on the Tatum bandwagon too. The only reason I picked Liberty Allo and got it right is because I thought Tatum would win the game. So I missed this one. I mean, I got it right, but I missed this one. I guess. I saw that loss that Liberty Allo took to Carthage, which Carthage is doing that to everybody now. But I mean, saw that loss and I wasn't a believer. Wasn't a believer in the Leopards up there, but they put it on Tatum, so I got to give the kudos to Liberty Allo.
Yeah, I'm thinking this game with Jefferson should be really interesting with Liberty Allo, like we just talked about. I think that's going to be one of the better games that week. I'm not sure when that game is. I'm trying to look it up here on my
I think it's the last game of the year.
Oh,
No, Liberty Allo and Jefferson are the November 1st.
Okay, well that'll be probably for district, and it should be a really good matchup there. Liberty Allo is going to be one of those teams that takes advantage of dropping down. I think they've had some tough years in 4A, not Liberty Allo type years, but now this drop to 3A Division 1, it's really going to be good for them. I think with the athletes they have, and this district's going to test them too. So I think anybody that comes out of this district, kind of like the last district we talked about, will have some success.
I mean, I think, you're really going to be battling to stay out of that third spot, because you look over at the by district and you see Winsboro and Malakoff. You don't want to see them in the first round. So you got to stay in that. You got to stay in that 1-2 seed. Otherwise, probably not looking good for a playoff.
Yeah,
run.
those two East Texas teams in the other district are probably going to be a tough matchup.
Well, I don't know if you saw it this past week, but the director of Longview ISD, Mr. Prosser, you can look it up. He retweeted my map of what I consider the Metroplex, and he's like, you know what? I've always thought of Athens as a Dallas area place as well. That's your Longview ISD director of communications.
He's so far east.
Yeah, he's so far east. It doesn't. He's so far east. It doesn't count. It doesn't count.
He goes to Henderson County. He's like, this is not home. This is the city up here. I'm just telling you. What kind of absolute expert do you need other than the Longview ISD director of communication communicating what East Texas is to the rest of East Texas as a sounding board?
Until there's a consensus on it, it's not going to change. And I'm not going with it until there's a change.
Well, you can go LISD _ Mr. Prosser, and you can take it up with him. You can have one of your red zone little things on TV and bring them on and have a conversation about it, Kyle. It's just what it is.
It's not a bad idea, actually, to get somebody on there to discuss East Texas and where does East Texas. Because see, I think Texarkana is East Texas because it's northeast, but we don't cover Texarkana. So, I mean, I
bet when Texas High is playing in week 4, you'll start to consider that. I mean,
no.
Come on, Texas High. That's a fun team this year. I'd adopt Texas High. Their coach is from Marcus. Come on. Our friend Conrad loves Marcus too. So it's all in the family. True. All in the family.
Listen,
Texas High is good. They're not going to have
Texas High is good, but
their district is not going to have any challenges for them. Their first challenge will be the playoffs.
4 rounds though. 4 rounds for T-High. I like to see
or more. 4 or more.
Or more. Ooh.
Okay. All right. Let's move down to we got Region 3 of a 2A Division 1. Sorry, District 10 is the next 2 games here. As we've got Elysian Fields and Union Groves. Elysian Fields got the win, 42-34, a close game there. We've been high on Elysian Fields. They got really donkey stomped week before by Beckville and Jordan Prince, but still think this district, they've got a good chance. This is an interesting district to me. You've got Beckville, I believe, is the best team by far. I think you've got Union Grove, you've got Elysian Fields, Big Sandy's played well, and also maybe Wascom that could possibly make noise.
Wascom's 3-0 right now in district.
Yeah. And so, they played? They've beat Union Grove, which is a good win. Harleton and Ora City are at your bottom tier, so they've got one good win. So they still have to play the meat of their schedule here. They've got Beckville, Big Sandy, and Elysian Fields left. So, I think Wascom and Big Sandy is one of the games that we are possibly looking at trying to get to Thursday night game. So I think that will be a good one. But this district's going to be interesting. I mean, I took Elysian Fields. I was impressed what they've done so far. I know Beckville's a good team, so I didn't hold that against them. Kyle, you had Union Grove, I'm sure, since you had different picks. What did you think about this game?
I honestly thought Elysian Fields would win by more. I didn't think it would be this close. I mean, kudos to the Lions. They kept it close with Elysian Fields. I think what we saw a week before when Elysian Fields played Beckville is Elysian Fields shot themselves in the foot a lot. They, not to take anything away from Beckville, Beckville capitalized on it, but it was a lot of the Yellow Jackets' mistakes that led to easy points for Beckville. And so I haven't seen any of the game, but I assume some of that happened again, probably to keep this game as close as it was. But you got to give credit to Elysian Fields too. This is the third time this year that they've won by 3 or less points. So I mean, they're finding a way to win these close ball games for whatever reason that they're in those close ball games. And they got a huge one this week when they host Big Sandy, because I was impressed with Big Sandy, and I know they didn't keep it very close with Beckville either, but they hung with them at the start, and then after halftime, Beckville kind of pulled away. It's kind of similar to what they did to Elysian Fields. Beckville's the class of the district for sure, but we got some good matchups between these other teams to figure out that 2 through 4 spot.
I confused a lot of people in Plano. I was doing the Plano East announcing, and I did some area scores this past week. And I said that Wascom beat Ore City 69-37. It was a nice win, and nobody really got that reference at all, but that's okay. But I think what's amazing about this Region 3 in general is that the 3 top teams in the state are potentially in this region with Garrison, Beckville, and Honeygrove. Honeygrove, if you don't know, is my adopted 2A team. Decided to kick Toller out because Toller got too big for us. So I've adopted Honeygrove as a DFW area team that we're excited about, and I think they have a really good chance to make a run. But I mean, you got Wascom, that's good. You got Beckville, that's good. Whoever Honeygrove plays in the first round of the playoffs is going to be a pretty good team, even at the 4 seed. So it's going to be fun by district playing. And then you got to deal with Shelbyville and Garrison and some really big names after that. So we are going to be, as a DFW East Texas duo, we're going to be treated to some really good first 2 rounds of playoffs when it comes to 2A Division 1.
Yeah, I agree. This is going to be a really fun district. I'm interested to see how Wascom does the rest of the way. Because we talked about with the district standings right now, them and Beckville at 3 and at the top. You got Big Sandy and Elysian Fields at 2 and 1. Hawkins, which they're putting up some crazy points, put up 87 on Ore City. They put up 74 earlier in the year, 52-50. Of course, the Union Grove loss. That's kind of an interesting one there. They only scored 20 in that one. But they were right there with Elysian Fields. So Hawkins is another team that could throw some wrench in this as well. They can score. Can they stop anybody? But they can definitely score. I mean, you score 80 against anybody. That's a lot of points. But I think this is going to be we'll have a lot of these games, I'm sure. And these 3A and 2A districts that are very competitive are really tough to pick. And so those are the games we like to try. I don't know if you heard us. Well, of course you didn't. You were here earlier, Matt. We have nobody that's picked 10 out of 10 in our pick'ems all season long. It's been that tough this year with these teams and games are close, and they're really competitive matchups. All right, the next one, probably the biggest upset in our area for sure. I don't know about statewide, Matt, but Henderson over Kilgore. Henderson kicks a field goal to win the game at the end, and only 3 people at Henderson. One of them is in this conversation as KO had Henderson to win. I think Corey was the other one, and so we've got one other person that had Henderson in our whole pick'em contest. Everybody else had Kilgore along with me. I've been impressed with Coach Baker and what he's done at Henderson this year. I just wasn't ready to anoint them as someone that could beat Kilgore. I mean, Kilgore have the pedigree. Henderson's been good, but it's been several years since they have been. And so this is a big win for Coach Baker and the Henderson program. I mean, this is one of those that you can build off of and get your guys, some confidence, and the locker room can, they've got a tall task ahead of them to make the playoffs. They still going to have to beat. They've got Chapel Hill, you've got Lindale, and you've got Pine Tree. So you've got 3 teams there that are going to be tough to compete against. But they got Kilgore out of the way. So this could be an interesting 5 teams for 4 spot situation that we have. Kyle, we kind of talked about could Henderson get in the mix, and they said that we're in the mix.
I'm a believer of the Henderson Lions. I mean, I'm on the bandwagon. Count me in. Give me the red, blue, white, silver, whatever jerseys they want to wear, because I know they have a plethora of jerseys over there in Henderson in different uniform combinations. But yeah, I'm on the Henderson bandwagon. Their only loss this year is to Liberty Ilo, who we just talked about, and it was by 3 points. So you're right, though. They do have a tough part of their schedule coming up. They get Maybank at home this week. Should be an easy dub for Henderson. But then, like you said, they got Pine Tree, Chapel Hill, and Lindale, and 2 of those 3 are on the road. They have Chapel Hill at home, but they have to travel to Longview and travel to Lindale to play those other games. So definitely not an easy task for Henderson, but impressive win. Impressive that they got up 24 or 21-0 quick, like on Kilgore, quick, and jumped on them fast. Now, credit to Kilgore, they fought back and they were able to tie the game, but Henderson was able to pull it out. I'm a believer of the Henderson Lions, and I have not given up on the Kilgore Bulldogs. But Henderson has definitely thrown a wrench into this whole district now, because now, just like we talked about with the other districts, now you got 5 teams fighting for 4 spots. There's going to be a really good football team left out of the playoffs, and it's unfortunate, but that's what makes this district so intense.
Hey, Kyle, it could come down to Lindale and Henderson week 11. I mean, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very possible that game is for the final spot.
Yeah, when you have these situations where you've got 5 teams for 4 spots, and you have a situation where everybody kind of thought Henderson was going to be that really good team that didn't make the playoffs, and then they beat a lot of people who a lot of people thought was going to be the district champions. Now they're going to have to repeat it, because if Kilgore gets back to who we think they are, and they take care of business, and they beat some of the teams that could beat Henderson, that's going to make Henderson's tiebreaker situation where like you said, it's going to come down to week 11, where they're just going to have to win straight up to maybe even knock Lindale from making the playoffs. So all kinds of tiebreaker chaos, and I'm here for it. But Kyle, I'm not a believer in Henderson yet. I think it was an upset. We see East Texas has a lot of upsets, it seems like, week in and week out. They got to be consistent and keep doing it.
Well, here's what I'll say is last year, I know their record was 2-8, but 3 of their losses were by 1 possession. So that's very easily, they go the other way last year. I guess what I'm saying, they're not that far off. So to me, it's not as surprising to see them. Now, it is surprising to see them beat Kilgore, because like you said, they're projected to be district champs going into it and all that. But I don't think it's not far off. It's not out of nowhere that Henderson is doing what they're doing this year. It is impressive, though, with the amount of points that they're putting up.
Well, they've had good athletes. They just had a culture problem there. The coach they just had lost control of the program. Coach Baker has come in and done a great job. You know, he came from Carlisle. They were, had a lot of deep runs in Carlisle before he went there, and he has done a great job with that program and turned them around really quickly. And when you have the right pieces already there, that helps. So, give credit to Coach Baker and his staff. They've done a really good job of getting Henderson relevant. And now the District of Doom has gotten deeper with Henderson. Now I think they're, I don't think they're, back quite yet, but they're going to compete, and it's not going to be that other win that we thought might be a little easier. Henderson's going to give some people some trouble. I wouldn't be surprised to see them upset somebody else. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me at all. And so, I'm interested to see how they should come out, and they should win next week, and then they'll be 3-0 with 3 games left, and all 3 are going to be tough. And so we'll see how that turns out, but it very could come down to your Lindale Eagles and the Henderson Lions that last week, week 11, Colin. I don't, I know it's early still with several weeks left, but that could possibly be the scenario there.
Hey, fun fact, my senior year against Henderson, I threw my one and only career pass in a football game.
Okay.
It did not go well. It did not go well.
Did it go to the wrong team, Kyle?
No. So I was playing receiver, and it was called the Eagle Special. And the quarterback, I was in trips. I was the middle receiver in trips. He threw it out to me, a little screen. I caught it and acted like I was running. Then I backed up, and I was a throwback to the quarterback, right? And it was set up beautifully. I mean, it was perfect. But in practice, every time we ran it, it was on air. Nobody was running at me, nothing. So on air, I'd catch it, just lob it back, and touchdown, cool. So we called it. I caught it, did that. I look up, I see two big Henderson Lions just full speed coming right at me. I just turned my head and threw it up. It went about 50 feet over this quarterback's head, bounced on the ground. He had to jump on it. But it was – so anyway, that's my memory of Henderson.
So that means you didn't want to play quarterback anymore after that.
No. I said we should have practiced this with people running at me, so it wasn't such a surprise on Friday night. We never ran that play again. That was one and only.
Well, the next game on the pick'em here is a dig special. The Texas High squad took it out on White House last week, and it was not pretty. Kyle, how'd your White House pick go there? You and your buddy, you and whoever else picked White House. Two of you picked White House. I'm not sure that should have been your upset special there. I don't know.
I told you last week was all about Hail Marys, and this one was I threw this one from the other end zone, attempting to try and this one was bad. No, Texas High is for real. I know Diggs mentioned it earlier, but Texas High is for real. I think they're a really good football team. White House has had they played a tough schedule, man. Their losses to Kilgore and Chapel Hill back to back. Then they took a surprise loss. They beat this Paris team though. They beat Paris by 20. Which and then to beat Paris by 20 and then to go out the next week and lose to Mount Pleasant that hadn't won a game all year is just surprising to me. So, and I don't know what happened, but 2 losses to Open District, not great, but I think the next 3 games for White House are very winnable, and it could come down to that final game against Marshall to see who gets into the playoffs.
Yeah, this district, though, I know none of us are doing Houston ball, but that 8-5A over there with PNG and Montgomery and Lake Creek and Montgomery itself are really good teams. I can't see any of our East Texas teams making it out of that first round other than Texas High.
Yeah, I think this district is – I'd say it's top heavy with Texas High, and then you've got everybody else. I mean, I wouldn't be – besides Jacksonville, it's just – still having a tough season over there. Everybody else, I think, could beat any of the other teams. Besides, I think it's kind of top and bottom heavy, with the worst team of the district being Jacksonville, and then Texas High. The other middle teams, I think any combination of those teams could make the playoffs. So it'll be interesting to see. Kind of, I know Hallsville, they scrimmaged Chapel earlier in the season, and they've got some weapons, and they can play with any of these. I think Nacogdoches. We've talked about them several times. They've looked good at times in the year. Of course, Lufkin stomped them, but I think in this district they could come in and win a couple. Mount Pleasant, I don't know. I wasn't expecting them, but they beat White House. That was like Kyle said, that was a big shocker. So who knows in this district? But unfortunately, our 5A teams they're just not real deep this year. I don't think we're going to have many. I think our 4A and below in East Texas will be pretty good. I think Longview is probably our own team out of East Texas that will be able to compete in the playoffs. But the 4A and below makes up for it because we've got some really good teams that'll make some deep runs. But unfortunately, our bigger schools right now are just not at the competitive level. And I mean, it's sad. I wish it was, but it's kind of the way it is.
Maybe if we'd embrace Texarkana a little more, Mr. KO, we might be able to say we have some good East Texas teams out there. And I'm just going to go ahead and watch out. Tyler Legacy has confused me utterly this year. They've played up and down. And, and what I'm seeing now in 10-6A is there's so much parity. Why not Tyler Legacy? And, I mean, they're going to beat Roy City, so now they just got to pick up one more game, steal a win in there. It's very doable for Tyler Legacy.
All right. Speaking of 6A, let's talk about the game you were talking about a while ago. I picked Longview this week, as of 48 people did out of the 58, to get the win over Rockwall, that DFW team. All right, Diggs, what happened this game? You had Rockwall.
I did, and that was more than my perceived lack of confidence in Longview because I watched one Rockwall game this year and they got, boat raced out by North Crowley and it was not pretty. And I thought that they would be able to get out there. I didn't think that Longview would be able to establish the run. And I don't know if Washington can do that every single week or if that was just a special thing with, he just matched up really well against Longview or against Rockwall's defense. But give credit to Longview. They took care of business. But like I said, it is a parity-driven district right now. I think 5 teams could beat each other, and maybe even 6 teams could beat each other in any given week. So I actually expect Longview to come out here to Forney this week and lose after that really impressive win. So I'm sticking with my DFW bias when it comes to that. Forney is a really good team. They are deep. They've got a lot of D1 talent. They've got a lot of head-scratching elements to it. Longview is a better team, but they got a lot more athletes. And Longview and Forney have seen each other the last couple of years. They've been in that district together. So obviously they're going to be no strangers to each other. And I know Forney, really wants to beat Longview because Longview has kind of owned them the last couple of years. It's always been Forney is so close, and they needed Lancaster to beat Longview to get out of that region last year. So I think Forney is passionate about this game, and they've been circling it on their calendar. And I think we're going to finally see the best Forney Jackrabbit team that we haven't seen all year. But I think we saw the best Longview team last week that we've seen this year as well for them.
Yeah, to your point though, Diggs, I think when you say can Washington do this, let's call him Boosie. Let's call him Boosie because that's what Longview. That's what he's known as in Longview. Listen, shout out to Longview Game Day for these stats, but the best single game performance in Longview high school history is official. Take a bow, Boosie, it says. 541 all-purpose yards in the win. 381 rushing yards, places him second all-time and just 6 shy of the great Fred Talley. 8 total touchdowns, broke a record that stood for 97 years by Leonard Ray. 6 rushing touchdowns, broke a record held by 5 Lobo greats, Taylor Tatum, Haynes King, Adarius Carter, Vondrell McGee, Andre Davis, and Leonard Ray. He also had 53 return yards, also had 110 receiving yards, including a fantastic catch. It was a phenomenal game. But to your point about can he continue this?
He's slacking. He should have thrown for 150 yards at least.
He didn't need to. But I think he obviously he's not going to do that every game. You can't expect that every game. But I think he's not Taylor Tatum, but I think he's the Taylor Tatum for this Lobo team. I think the offense runs through Washington, and I think when he gets cooking like he did Friday night, Longview is going to be really, really difficult to stop. I was going to ask you, Diggs, you kind of answered it though, where Longview kind of sits in this district from your eyes, because this is a mostly DFW district with just Longview and Tyler Legacy in there. So I think Legacy can make the playoffs. Like you said, they're going to have to steal a win somewhere. But where does Longview, do you think, are they a 2 or a 3 seed? Can they beat North Forney maybe?
Right now, I mean, you can make the argument that they're 1. I mean, I had Rockwall 1, and they just beat Rockwall. I think North Forney beat Forney, but I consider that more of a rivalry game, so I kind of consider that an upset. So right now, I said this is a parity-driven district. Week to week, I don't think anybody's going to get through unscathed. I think everybody's going to take at least 1 loss, so we're going to be dealing with some tiebreakers. And then if a team like Tyler Legacy or Rockwall Heath is good enough to beat any of those 4 or 5 teams that I talked about that are potentially playoff teams if you don't give 110%. Coach Webb has an amazing program. He just doesn't have the talent this year. It's young and inexperienced. But by the end of the season, if you take them for granted, they're going to steal a win as well. I think Tyler Legacy has the ability. I was very disappointed with Tyler Legacy and how they performed against North Forney. I thought they would be a little bit more competitive after that overtime thriller against Rockwall Heath 2 weeks ago. So that's what you're going to see. Every week is going to be about matchups, and Longview had the matchup because Rockwall had no answer for the running game. But Forney and North Forney have very good run defenses. So can they pivot and be able to get their balls to the edges and make some plays out there? So I can see Longview anywhere from 1 to 5. And I know it's crazy talking about Longview not making the playoffs after that amazing win, but that's how deep this district is, that if they take any game for granted, they're going to be quickly looking at 1 and 2, like, oh, we got to beat a good team now to even, make the playoffs. So parity driven.
All right. In game 10, of our pick'em this week. The game I covered at Clyde Perkins Stadium in Tyler, Texas. The Grace Community Cougars got the win over the Brook Hill Guard, 28-21. It was a great game. It was tough because the Grace Cougars, I mean, they're a really good team. They've got a freshman running back. Kyle, did you get to see that? You get to see some of the highlights of Mr. Alexander. That guy, he looks like the Jerome Bettis of the Grace Cougars, man. He's a big dude,
kid.
and he runs over whoever gets in his way. He had a great game. Grace started out, they got an interception return, a 60-yard interception return on the first time the Brook Hill got the ball. As Brook Hill was driving, they had a good drive going, and then Grace gave up a fumble. They got the ball, got a short field, and so right before you knew it, halfway through the first quarter, Grace was up 14-0. Brook Hill came back and answered. They scored the next 3 touchdowns, all on Samuel Williams. He had 2 rushes and 1 pass touchdown, so they were up 21-14, and then Grace closed the game with 2 touchdowns on a punt return touchdown for the win with about 6 minutes to go in the game. And Brook Hill just couldn't get it. But, man, this was a great – when we talk about rivalry games, this is a great TAPS rivalry here in East Texas. We cover Brook Hill, and we're at every game. And I hated it for the kids because they played their heart out at that game, and it's a really tough battle. And so now they've kind of got themselves in a hole at 0-2 in the district. Of course, Regents and Grace, one of the 2 better teams in that district. So they've now got to take care of business the rest of the way. Speaking of Grace and Regents, they actually play Thursday night, Kyle, is the game that you might be interested in Grace this week. So could possibly be a game that is definitely for district seeding implications. As they're both early in the season, 2-0. So, but I think for Brook Hill, they've just got to shake it off, and now they've got to worry about kind of completing the rest of their district. I wasn't surprised. It was close. We talked about it, the rivalry. I had Brook Hill, me and 10 others. And Kyle, we stuck with our orange. We kind of bleed orange here on NETSN, and they had a chance.
Hey man, they played them close. They played Grace really close, and I think that's something you could build off of going forward. Do have to give a shout out to Coach Russell over at Grace. Remember, I said last week that I knew him when he was back at Harmony, so I'm happy to see him doing well and him having success.
Yeah, I told him that you call games for us. So I did get to talk to him a little bit before the game. I told him that you were working with us now. So yeah, he said that he loves him some KO. So he
love Coach Russell, man. He's awesome, and so I'm happy to see him doing well and succeeding. But hate that it happened against Coach Hubbard. Love Coach Hubbard too, and the Brook Hill Guard. But they'll bounce back, and I think they'll be all right.
Two, if you don't mind me interjecting, because I don't know much about this, but I have a question for you. The professor needs a little bit of education, but you mentioned Harmony. Has there been a bigger fall from Grace in East Texas than Harmony over the last 2 years? That is harsh to watch. But what is the Guard? Tell me about this mascot, the Guard. Like it's like the Cardinal, the Guard. What is their little?
He's guarding the cannon, man.
Thing? What is it?
Guard. He guards the cannon. The God.
Like is it just like a person with a musket or something?
Yeah.
A cannon?
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah. They have actually a cannon now. Games. They don't fire it because obviously, they could be a little bit dangerous, but they have it there at the games, right, on the home games.
Take it to the Tomato Bowl and do a little renovation over there.
To your Harmony point, though, Diggs, I think it just goes to show how important that senior class was and how good that senior class was for Harmony. Now, I know they expected a little more this year, but they've fallen on some tough times there, and I think it's a product of just how dominant that senior class that came through was. And maybe now, even looking back at it just a year removed from it, you can see their impact, their legacy grows even more because of how this team is performing this year. I think they'll be all right. They're younger this season. They've been the veteran team these past few years, and now they're younger and trying to relearn some things. So I think they'll be all right. But it's tough. It's tough this year in Harmony.
Well, when you've got that many seniors playing and you don't get a lot of the other guys any playing time, like that was the majority of the guys playing. And so even if you had some guys returning, they probably didn't have a lot of experience, which doesn't help. So sometimes it's a kind of a good and bad thing of having that kind of group come through, because you kind of you're so good, and then like it's just a huge drop off. Even if you have talent coming back, they don't have any experience.
Yeah, true.
All right, so let's go over our pick'em leaderboard after our week 6 picks. Scott Poole is still in the lead. He has 47. He's up 4 now on us. Looks like James Franks and Russ Miller and Wes Shue are 4 behind him at 43. So I'm still on this leaderboard somewhere. Oh yeah, here I'm down 11th. I got 39. I'm kind of far back, but I don't see anybody else on the NETSN crew here. Oh wait, the next closest person is Corey Marshall. What is this world coming to here? What is this world coming to? I don't know. So anyway, shout out to Corey. He had a good week, so he probably gained on pretty much everybody on our team. So, all right, let's look at our polls. We got Matt here. He'll probably have a lot of disagreements on how good or bad our polls are, I'm sure here. Kyle,
No.
now we have a 6A, 5A. Our poll is only a 5, since there's not a whole lot of teams. We had it 10 last year, and we were having to rank like teams that were like 2 and 8, like they don't deserve to be ranked. So we cut it back. We only got 5 in our 6A, 5A poll this season. Kyle, tell me who you got in your poll.
I didn't do much changing, to be honest with you, because this one's so difficult for me. I got T. High at 1, Longview at 2. I kept Lufkin at 3, Marshall at 4. And because that 5th spot, I had Legacy in there, then they lost. I don't feel like any of the teams in that 7-5A Division 2 deserve to be in the top 5. So since Tyler High got a win, I put Tyler High at 5.
Oh, okay. I'm right there with you. I had Texas High, Longview, Lufkin, Marshall. I have Nacogdoches. They were off this week. They didn't lose. They were ranked 5 for me last week, so I have them 5 this week. In that poll, our official poll for NETSN is what we had the top 4: Texas High, Longview, Lufkin, Marshall, and then Tyler High does get the 5th spot overall in our poll. What do you think about that, Diggs? I know it's kind of a tough to rank some of these teams, but what do you think about that 5?
I think Texas High is probably the best team out there right now. I think on any given week, I could even see Tyler Legacy being part of that mix. I know Marshall, got up on Tyler High earlier in the year. I think Tyler High figured it out against Joshua this past week, because Joshua was a pretty decent team. They were 4-0. They lost their first district game to Midlothian, and then Tyler High shut them out in the second half. That game was 7-0 at halftime, and then Tyler High took care of business. I think Tyler High is going to find their way into the playoffs in 7-5A Division 1. So they just got to beat Burleson Centennial, and Burleson Centennial is down this year. So I have no major disagreements, unlike last year where y'all were doing some crazy things, putting some, like, can't even remember, but I was just shaking my head hearing it.
All right, well, one out of 1. I'm sure you'll have some disagreements on some poll we have. We'll go move.
Hey,
we
got Diggs approval. I'll take it. We can put the stamp. You should put a logo on the ranking.
Diggs approved.
There you go. All right, 4A next up. All right, I'll Kyle, go ahead and give me your 4A poll here.
So I did some moving this week. So I had Carthage stays at number 1. I had Kilgore at number 2. So I had to drop them because they lost. So I moved Chapel Hill up to number 2. They were number 3. I moved Center from 4 to 3. I dropped Kilgore from 2 to 4. And the only reason I only dropped them to 4 is because at 5 I have Pine Tree, and Kilgore beat Pine Tree head up. So I kept them in front. I moved Henderson from 10th to 6th place after their win over Kilgore. I got Van at 7, got Gilmer at 8, Sulphur Springs at 9, and Pleasant Grove at 10.
Well, I have the same 10 teams. I have a little bit different order. I have Carthage 1, Chapel Hill 2, Center 3, Gilmer 4, Kilgore 5. I dropped Kilgore below Gilmer. Gilmer did beat Kilgore, so I dropped them below them. Pine Tree right below Kilgore because they did lose to Kilgore, and then Van below Pine Tree because Pine Tree beat Van. Then I have Henderson at 8, Sulphur Springs at 9, and Pleasant Grove at 10. All right, so let's see how our tabulated poll goes here. Overall rankings. Carthage 1, Chapel Hill 2, Center 3, Kilgore and Henderson tied at 4, Gilmer and Pine Tree tied at 6, Van 8, Sulphur Springs 9, and Pleasant Grove 10. Wow, Henderson jumped up on somebody's poll. Biggs,
Yeah,
what
I
do you
know.
think?
I mean, I moved them up 4, but that's as far as I could go with them.
Now I don't know if this is because the one quibble I would take, and this is just because I get a little DFW bias in 7-4A Division 1. I've got Paris over Sulphur Springs in my rankings because I rank everybody in that district. So I'm a little surprised y'all didn't give Paris love.
Yeah, well, who are you going to take out there though? Because that's a
Sulphur
pretty solid
Springs.
4A.
I think Paris is going to.
Okay.
Well, the beautiful thing about that is they'll play head up, and we'll get to figure it out. That's the beautiful thing about that one. But I think I don't know. I've seen more of Sulphur Springs than I have of Paris. I guess that's why I put them up there. I haven't seen much of Paris other than them losing by 20 to White House.
But I mean, they played Panther Creek within 3 this week. I mean, that's the Panther Creek was a lot of people's number 1 or number 2 in the state until Salina beat them. And to go 1 score with them, I think tells you what Paris's ceiling looks like.
What do you think Salina does to Sulphur Springs this week, or vice versa?
Destroys them. Salina is really, really good. I think Salina is I think when we're talking about big dogs, Salina's got a pretty good run to the state championship.
So old school Salina's back.
Old school Salina is back with a Prosper and Allen sized offensive line. They're just hammering, and they're big. They're big and they're fast. So
that's a pretty good combination usually.
It works.
Not for everybody, but works for them, especially in 4A Division 1.
All right, let's go with our most interesting poll of this season. It's always our 3A and below poll. Lots of good teams, lots of teams that probably deserve spots. Kyle, tell us what you got here in your poll.
Not a lot of movement this week in this one either. I got the top 5 actually stay the same. Malakoff, Palestine Westwood, or AKA Westwood. New Diana, Jefferson, and Beckville are my top 5. Got Winsboro up to 6. I dropped Tatum. That's where they were. So I moved Winsboro up from 7 to 6. Grand Saline from 8 to 7. Troop from 9 to 8. I dropped Tatum from 6 to 9. And I put the Grapeland Sandies in my 10th spot because of recency bias and just seeing them recent.
Okay. I have Malakoff 1, Westwood 2, Jefferson 3, Beckville 4, New Diana 5, Liberty Islo 6, Tatum 7, Winsboro 8, Mount Enterprise 9, and Elysian Fields. I brought them into the rankings at number 10. All right.
My only opinion is I don't know some of the specifics and what happens. Yeah, I think what one thing you can say you've seen this year, I think Gilmer is one of the rare exceptions, is when you're playing up. Like there was a game with Mart and Whitney this year, and Whitney just absolutely destroyed Mart. And you saw Anna and Gunter, and Anna just absolutely destroyed Gunter. Winsboro is going to beat almost every team you mentioned above them. I mean, so I would have Winsboro higher. That's the only thing I would comment on, just because they're in that 3A Division 1. I mean, they're definitely below Malakoff. But you saw they beat Honeygrove. I mean, they beat Honeygrove the brakes off of Honeygrove. So I think I love those schools. I love New Diana. They're really impressing me this year. But Winsboro would beat the brakes off.
What about Westwood though?
I think
Westwood's good this year.
They are, but I mean, it's different classifications, and I think that that Winsboro has the size and talent and the depth, and they would take care of those smaller schools.
Okay,
just my take.
Well, our final tabulations after our other votes are in is Malakoff 1, Westwood 2, New Diana 3, Jefferson 4, Beckville 5, Liberty Islo 6, Winsboro 7, Tatum 8, Grand Saline 9, and Mount Enterprise at 10. So that's our final NETSN poll for those. What do you think about that?
On the Dave Campbell's power poll, Winsboro would be a 5-point favorite over Westwood.
Okay.
I would like to see that, though. I think Kavian Bryant and John Denman going up against Winsboro would be phenomenal to watch.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that Tatum beat them I know the game wasn't a complete game, but that's I don't know.
Makes you wonder.
Yeah.
Things that make you go,
Yeah. Also, things that make you go home. Let's make some picks.
Well, hold on. Before we do that, can you make them live on the website so I can pick along?
Are they not there?
No. I
There's
see week 6 view results.
Well, that would probably be handy. I thought I did that earlier, but it just put the wrong time in there. Okay. Well, I can make that happen for you, KO.
Okay, because I like to pick along live with the chat. I like to
what I'm
do
doing
my picks
too.
just live.
Just refresh your page and you're good now.
There they go. Okay.
I can make that happen. I know somebody. So here we go.
Okay.
I want to say I didn't have trouble this week, but there were some really good games this week. It kind of stuck out to me in this week's pick'ems.
Boy, you got a lot of 2A games on here.
There's some real good little matchups this week. It's going to be interesting.
5 of the 10. I like it.
It's going to be some good small ball this week. Game 1, Big Sandy and Elysian Fields in a game has a lot of district implications here. Big Sandy at 4-2, Elysian Fields at 5-1. I really like what Elysian Fields has got going. I think Big Sandy is a very good team, but I think Elysian Fields is just going to be too much for them. And so I'm going with Elysian Fields in this one. You guys got?
I like what Big Sandy's got going on. I like Coach Pullum over there. Lone Oak is a team that we haven't talked about really that's in that DFW area, Diggs, over there in Hunt County. So but Lone Oak's been a really good football team this year, and Big Sandy only lost to them by 11 earlier in the season. And then that loss to Beckville that they just had. But again, Beckville's doing that to everybody. I'm hung up on that Elysian Fields barely beating Union Grove. Like that just kind of hangs me up a little bit. I don't know why, but I can't get past that right now. So I'm going to take the Big Sandy Wildcats.
We got the contrarian. I'm going to go with Mr. NETSN and take Elysian Fields. By the way, as a credential, I am winning a different East Texas pick'em right now. So let's at least throw that out there.
Not the
But
one
it's true.
not the official one. That's a fake.
I'm just saying, unofficially, there's one out there I am winning.
I'm in the other one too, and he is beat me in there too.
I don't know that. That's I would call that very, very Northeast Texas. That's not that. Kyle's probably has more knowledge about those teams than I do. I'm trying to learn more about more of the teams, but the teams I'm more familiar with aren't on that pick'em. So I'm trying. I'm trying to learn those teams. I want to be able to know all the teams in East Texas. So it's a huge region. All right, game 2. You'll know a little bit about a couple of these teams. Diggs. Game 2 is Longview and Forney this week. I just got it. I'm going with Longview. I'm not going to pick against my East Texas team. I think Longview they're a really good team this year. I know Forney is in that district. They could go either way, but I'm gonna lean for East Texas. I'm going with Longview.
As well, you should, and there's definitely precedent in picking that game. Forney for me, and I do it on my podcast where we're DFW heavy. Forney's been one of the most underachieving, disappointing programs in our area right now. They've got so much talent, and they're doing less with more. It's like ridiculous. I was looking at their roster at the beginning of the season. They got like 8 D1 players on their team. You've got Adrian Peterson's little brother, stepbrother, half brother in there at quarterback, and Nelson Peterson. You've got Javian Osborne, the number 1 running back in the state. You've got linemen. You've got linebackers that got D1 offers, and they keep playing almost everybody to these one-score games that they can't win. In our area, they've played Waxahachie. They've played North Forney now. They just can't get over the barrier. That's why I said this week, because Longview has been their thorn on their side. Last year they vanquished getting out of the region. It took Lancaster beating Longview to get them out of the region. I think they're going to take care of business and be a highly motivated team. I think if it was at Longview, I would pick Longview to win that game, but they got to come out here, and I think Forney will take care of business.
You know what Forney doesn't have that Longview has? They have Coach King. That's why they get the win this week.
Listen, I was interested to hear what Diggs had to say about it because he knows more about these teams than I do. So I was interested to hear that. But with that being said, I'm going against Diggs here. I'm taking the Longview Lobos because I hear you too. Like Longview has kind of whooped. I mean, last year it was a close game with Forney, a 13-7 game. But 2 years ago, Longview beat the brakes off Forney. So I'm with you where I think Forney has had this one circled on their schedule. Like this is our get back game against Longview, and so I can in there. Longview's got to travel to Forney. I mean, everything's pointing towards taking Forney. So give me Coach King and the Longview Lobos and Boosie to go off again for the Lobos.
Give it to Busey, but I don't think he can do it twice. And there's a meme going around the DFW Facebook things where it was on Longview game day, where after South Oak Cliff beat up Longview, it's just Coach King on an interview, just kind of frowning in a certain way, and we're all having fun with that in the DFW. I think we're going to see another John King frown this week.
I hope not. I need that win. Game 3. Mount Enterprise and Grapeland in this District 11 and 2A Division 2. We kind of talked about a little bit and how there were some important games in this district, and we got a couple on the pick 'em. This is the first one. I know Kyle's been high on Grapeland, but Mount Enterprise has also been impressive. They've challenged themselves early in the season. I've seen Shelbyville in action. I got to see them in Carlisle the other night with DJ Barnes and company. They're a really good team, and they got the win by 1 over Shelbyville. I think that's an impressive win for them. I think I like what I've seen from Enterprise. When you have a talented running back like that at that level, it can be a difference maker. So I'm going to go with Mount Enterprise to get the win over Grapeland.
Again, this may be recency bias, and I think these are our two teams, Brett, that me and you are just different. We're just opposite on, because you're high on Mount Enterprise where I'm not as high on them, and I'm high on Grapeland where you're not as high on them either.
We'll find out this week, Kyle.
We'll find out this week. But I just seeing Grapeland's defense and what they did to Alto. Alto has athletes all over the field too, and Grapeland stifled them, suffocated them, did not let them gain very many yards. And I just think with Grapeland coming home now, it's going to be a tall task to try and slow down Keegan Ash, who's a nearly 3,000-yard running back that in the backfield for Mount Enterprise. And the way he's able to do that, he's got to have a good offensive line. But again, this past week against Alto, Grapeland controlled the line of scrimmage. And Grapeland's got some big kids on that line too. So I think this is going to be a really fun matchup. I think it's going to be low scoring. If Grapeland can do the same game plan that they did against Alto, control the clock, control the ball, and play stifling defense, I'm going to take the Sandys to beat Mount Enterprise and knock off another undefeated team in back-to-back weeks.
2 straight weeks of knocking off undefeated teams, but I've picked against Mount Enterprise earlier in the season where they're in their tough non-district. They constantly make me look bad. I'm sticking with Mount Enterprise this week.
I don't know if I feel good that Diggs is agreeing with me or not. I'm not sure how to feel about that. All right, next one up, the same district, a big matchup that we're hoping to have on NETSN as Overton travels to Lovelady to take on a tough Lovelady team. Man, I got to see Overton early in the year against Carlisle. I know Carlisle is young and they're kind of a little down this year, but man, they've got a team that can put up points, and I like what I've seen. They've got good wins. Their only loss is an Alba Golden team they've got a really good defense. Week 1, I never know about week 1. How do you take that? They've got a win over the Grapeland team we just talked about. That's a really good team. They destroyed Tenaha last week. Sims, Bowie, and Maud. They haven't really been in any of these games except for the Grapeland game. The rest of them have been blowouts. So I'm going with Overton. I think they're going to go down to Lovelady and roll some heads. They've got a lot of talent returning. I think they have 10 on both sides of the ball. They've got a lot of continuity with that group, and I think they're on a mission this year. And I think they're going to go down and show some people down in the Lovelady area down south that Overton's for real this year. And so I'm going to take the Overton Mustangs to get the win.
Yeah, I've seen Overton a couple of times this year as well, and I'm really impressed with their offense. And I know Alba Golden's got a good defense, but that game early in the year, that 17-12 game, I think is an anomaly on this Overton schedule. I don't think that's the same Overton team that we've seen. Their schedule hasn't been a murderer's row of opponents, but they beat who's been in front of them, other than that Alba Golden game. Lovelady, what hangs me up on Lovelady is that Timpson game. I know Timpson's good offensively. Well, they will be good again when J.J. Gardner gets back. But that week, they were good offensively, and Lovelady lost 50-48. What worries me is that Lovelady gave up 50 points to Timpson, and if you can't stop Timpson, how are you going to stop Overton? Because Overton's coming in there with more weapons, I believe, than Timpson has. So I think it's going to be a tall task for Lovelady, and I'm going to take the Overton Mustangs in this one.
One factor I think you're both are ignoring, and I think in 2A football it is more crucial, is Lovelady's coming off a bye. They got 2 weeks to rest up. They have had a chance to scout and get a game plan. And like you take that Timpson and you're like, well, I take that Timpson and I'm like, that is their potential. So I'm taking Lovelady in this game.
All right. Next up, we've got Garrison and Shelbyville in a big matchup in this district. We didn't talk about this district because they were off last week, so we can talk about it a little bit now while we're doing this pick. But this is a district that has been dominated by Timpson over the past couple of years. It's more open than it has been in a long time. I think Garrison and Shelbyville are both really good teams. Timpson, you ever can count them out. Joaquin's a good team. St. Augustine. There's a lot of really good teams in this district, so I think there's going to be some interesting matchups here. We've got a couple of them on the pick'em this week, but the first one, this Garrison Shelbyville game, I saw Shelbyville and what DJ Barnes can do. I know Garrison's has been good. I know they were good last year. I saw them play in the playoffs. The Yarboroughs are legit at the tailback position. But DJ Barnes is a special kid. Like he's not one of those guys that just takes off running with it. He can throw it. He can fling it around the yard. They're a good team. So this may be an upset special. I know Garrison's probably favored in this district now, but I'm going to take Shelbyville, man. I really believe in what I saw in Shelbyville. I saw them in person, and I just think they're just something special. I think they're going to have a really good run this postseason.
Yeah, I like this Shelbyville team. I really do. And I said it on Overtime the other night. I think that Shelbyville kind of reminds me a little bit of Henderson in the fact that going into the year in that District of Doom, we talked about Lindell, Chapel Hill, and Kilgore, and that was it. And who was going to be that fourth team? Well, now Henderson's gone in there and knocked off Kilgore and said, "Hey, we're here now. It's not y'all's district anymore." And I think this is the same thing that you could say for Shelbyville. It's been Timpson and Garrison 1 and 2 for these past few years, battling it out in this district. Everybody else has kind of been second fiddle to all of that. I think this is an opportunity for Shelbyville at home. And to Diggs' point, like we just talked about, coming off of a bye week where Garrison played last week against a team from Louisiana, Shelbyville's had another week off to get healthy and to get ready to again, make a statement in district. So I'm taking the Dragons to make a statement on Friday night and get the win over Garrison.
I'm going to be contrarian. I'm taking Garrison. They beat Wascom. They beat Lovelady. I like the resume.
All right. Another game in this district this week. We have St. Augustine and Joaquin. St. Augustine coming in with a record of 3 and 2. They lost against two pretty good teams. Beckville and Westwood. They're both pretty good teams. That's their 2 losses this year. They've won the other 3. You've got Joaquin also at 3 and 2. They've lost to Beckville and Grand Saline, which are another 2 good teams. So I think both of these teams are very good this season. Joaquin's got a win over Frankston. We talked about Frankston early in the year being a pretty solid team. They've got a win over Frankston, which is an impressive win. St. Augustine got a kind of a rivalry game win over West Sabine, a team that's right there in the same area. This one to me is one of those toss-up games. I like the fact that Joaquin is at home. Speaking of home, have you guys seen Joaquin's facilities? They are top-notch facilities for a small school.
I saw Larry the other day doing the Facebook
yeah,
Live.
I mean, yes, just top-notch. This one's tough. I think you could flip a coin, and both teams were off last week. This whole district was off except for Garrison. So, man, I just don't know. Joaquin played Beckville a little bit better than St. Augustine did, so I'm gonna take Joaquin to get the win. But that's the only reason. I think Joaquin's also at home, so those two things I think is why I'm gonna go with Joaquin.
Yeah, this one's kind of a toss-up for me. What I was just looking at while you were talking was, yes, I understand St. Augustine's 2 losses are to Beckville and Westwood, but their 3 wins are over Carlisle, West Sabine, and Huntington. I think Joaquin has a better win over a Frankston team, and even Corrigan Camden. Corrigan Camden's not bad this year either. So I think because Joaquin's got a couple more quality wins than St. Augustine does, and the home field factor, I'm taking the Joaquin Rams.
I agree. Joaquin, a little bit more of explosive offense. I'm going to take them. We got a sweep, the NETSN sweep.
Well, that's a first here. We got all the same teams. And looking here too, I wanted to point this out while we were there. I believe is that Garrison Shelbyville. Yeah, the Garrison Shelbyville game will be on NETSN this week, so that game will be streamed live. So if anybody wants to watch that one, so all right. The next one on the list, Game 7, Dangerfield and what? How'd this get on there? Dangerfield and Queen City. Not sure how this game got on the pick'ems, but it's there. Yeah, I don't. That must have been a mess up there. But anyway, I'll take Dangerfield for the win, as I don't think Queen City is ready for Dangerfield.
Listen. Here it is. This is it. This is it.
No way. No way.
I talked to a source I have in Dangerfield that played for. He was a member of the of a back-to-back state championship team in Dangerfield back in the 09-08 time frame. I'm not 100% sure when, but anyway, talked to him. He said there's something going on in Dangerfield. He said it's something around the program right now going on in Dangerfield. He doesn't like it. They just lost to DeKalb last week by 2. Now, you tell me the last time that you would have thought Dangerfield would have lost to DeKalb. Now, it's not a shot at DeKalb. I'm just saying I think that proves how far down Dangerfield is this year. Their lone win is to Redwater. And in these other games, in the losses, I mean, they lost to Gladewater. That was a close game, but really not close against Tatum, not close against Pleasant Grove, not close against Center. I understand those are really good football teams. I get it, but not even competitive. Where last year we saw this Dangerfield team win these games, and even if they didn't win, they were competitive and in these ball games. Let me tell you something about Queen City. I know they're 0-6. I get it. Their 0-6 doesn't look great. They've lost to Grace by, 12 points. Then they got blown out by Harleton. Don't know what happened there. A 3-point loss to Elysian Fields, a 1-point loss to White Oak, a 1-point loss to Hooks, a 2-point loss to Hughes Springs. I'm just saying, this isn't your normal 0-6 football team. They are in these ball games. So give me Queen City to pull off the upset this Friday night against Dangerfield. At home, Queen City at home. Give me the Queen City Bulldogs.
Kyle's Red Zone producer's got to feel great about his ability to hype up a bad game because he did. He sold why Queen City could be competitive. And I've been a little bit down on Dangerfield too. I actually took DeKalb over Dangerfield this past week, but I think there's just too much of an athletic gap there. I'm going to take Dangerfield in this one.
Okay. All right. Game 8, West Rusk and New Diana. This is a game where I think before the season, we might have thought West Rusk would come in as the favorite. New Diana has come out and has been impressive so far at 5-0. West Rusk at 3-3. Man, I just can't pick against New Diana. They've been nothing but a solid team all year. They've had some good wins. I think it's them and Troop. I think New Diana and Troop are their top 2 in this district. They've beaten Gladewater, Sabine. Of course, Redwater and Winona, those games aren't good. Mount Vernon's not as impressive. I think the Gladewater win is probably the most impressive win for them as a step up in class. I think, was that Sabine win? Was that the game that was injured? The quarterback got injured, I believe.
Yeah, that one was ended in the third quarter.
once Sparks went out, I think Sabine is a different team. So they put 32-0 before Sparks got hurt. So I think that's still a quality win there with the Sabine win for New Diana. It is at home. It's in New Diana. So I'm gonna take New Diana to get the win over West Rusk. And I think West Rusk has been dominant in this particular district for the last several years. I think they're gonna take a step back and be fighting down at the bottom for a playoff berth. I think that ARP West Rusk game is that very last week could be an interesting seeding game. I think that could be for that 3rd and 4th spot, but we'll see. I'm going to take the New Diana squad to win this one, though.
Fun fact, West Rusk knocked out New Diana of the playoffs last season. So maybe a little bit of a revenge game for New Diana as well. I think West Rusk is down a little bit this year. They're just not as explosive and they're not the quality of team that they've had in the years past over there in West Rusk. Not to say they're a bad football team. I still think they're a playoff team, and I still think they're a good team. I just think they're down a little bit, and New Diana, man, has been impressive. My only question about New Diana, can they keep that momentum rolling after they had a bye week? Because they've been rolling to start the year. Does the bye week stop the momentum, or do they carry that on? And I think they carried it on. Give me the Eagles.
I love New Diana. I've been high on them. I've been keeping an eye on them the last couple of years, and you can see them progressing. Kind of remind me of Harmony a couple of years ago, as Harmony has kind of ascended there. I don't know if they're going to be able to keep this momentum going, but I think New Diana. Personal pick, I think New Diana is going to win this region. I think it's going to be New Diana versus Newton for the regional championship in round 4 of the playoffs. I think they're going to win that. We may even see New Diana at Texas AT&T Stadium. They're going to take care of West Rusk in a handily take care of them.
All right. Game 9. One of the bigger games around this area. These last two are probably your biggest games. As far as publicity wise this week, as the Center Rough Riders 5-0 traveling over to Carthage, Texas to take on the 4-1 Carthage Bulldogs. This game will be on NETSN. Our Center guys will be there covering that game, so it'll be live and free on there. Man, to me, I love Center. I hope Center wins, but for pick'ems, I'm the pick'em champ. I can't pick like there's only one team that I'll pick that way. And there's a reason why, but for this game, it's Carthage, man. I think Center they're an improved team. They're going to give Carthage, I think, some problems early. I think that Carthage will be too much, and it is in Carthage, so I think it's going to be a tough place to go in and get a win for Center. So I'm going to go with the Carthage Bulldogs, but I won't be sad if our Rough Riders get the win. I won't be sad about that. But good luck to Coach Meeks and that crew. But for the picks, I'm going to go with Carthage.
Yeah, this one's pretty easy for me. I said on OT the other night that Carthage got snake bitten by Kilgore in week 1. They're not going to let that happen again. I think they're not going to overlook Center. And I'm not saying I did say this the other night too. I'm picking Carthage, but if there's a year for Center to get Carthage, I think this is the best Center team, the best chance that they have to do it. Not saying that they will. But if there was a year to do it, I'm not saying – I know you said last year Carthage was down. That was a good year for Center to do it. I'm saying the opposite. I don't think Carthage is down, but I think this is the best Center team, the best shot that they'll have to beat this Carthage team. So I think it'll be a really good game. I think it'll be competitive. But Carthage is Carthage, man. I'm not picking against them.
A wise man once said there's levels to this, and Center and Athens are doing great to kind of get up to that next level, but they're not there, and they're not anywhere close to being there. This game probably will not be competitive. It's going to be one of those you're going to look at it. It's going to be 50-6 in the 4th quarter, and you're like, man, there's levels to this, and Carthage is the level that they have to get to. So give me Carthage.
All right, and game 10 will be coming off a loss. The Kilgore Bulldogs at 4-2 will be coming into Chapel Hill to take on the Chapel Hill Bulldogs in the game that we think is for the district championship, or we think it might be after Kilgore's lost last week, and Chapel Hill has struggled at times this year. So it's an interesting game. I've got 2 things on this. I'm not going to pick against Chapel Hill. That's my hometown. That's my lump. Now, I think Kilgore has a very good chance to come in and get this game. There's several reasons. There's players that are out, things going on with the team. Chapel Hill hasn't looked real great over the last couple of weeks. They did get a win over Palestine last week, but the game was 7-0 at halftime. So Ricky Stewart's going to need to have a stellar night. You need to break off a lot of touchdowns. Do I think Chapel Hill can win? Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if they will. I think it's going to help that they're at home for a home crowd. I'm going to go with the Bulldogs of Chapel Hill, but I won't be surprised at all if Kilgore comes in and gets a win, especially after taking the L last week.
I think at the start of the year, I had different thoughts on this game. Without speculating anything, with circumstances that have come up, I think this game has lost a little luster, in my opinion. Not to say that I don't think it won't be a good game. I just think Kilgore is the better, well-rounded team. I think they're overall just a better team than Chapel Hill, and that's not to take anything away from Chapel Hill. But I think they're going to be kind of playing behind the 8 ball a little bit this week, and it's going to. Kilgore is already a tough ball game, and then when you go in there maybe a little shorthanded, it's going to be even tougher. And so I think you're asking a little too much from this Chapel Hill football team on Friday night. But I'm with you, Brett. Like, I think I'm picking Kilgore, but if Chapel Hill goes out there and wins, it wouldn't be like, oh, how did they do that? Like, I can see Chapel Hill is a quality team. And so, but it's going to take a Herculean effort, I think, from Ricky Stewart. And the way Kilgore's defense can play it's going to be a tall task for Chapel Hill. So give me Kilgore.
I'm the anti-NETSN when it comes to Chapel Hill, because I watched Anna last year just completely break Chapel Hill and embarrass them, and just took them out to the woodshed. And you got UIL sending out notices about belts now because of what Anna did to Chapel Hill last year. And even this year, it feels like the games that they've won, they haven't won as convincingly as they should be winning them. So I still think they're a little bit broken, and I think Kilgore is going to bounce back. And even y'all said it, the way that Henderson jumped out on Kilgore and they held on. You give Henderson all the credit, but I think Kilgore, they just got started too late, and they're going to take care of business and make a statement against Chapel Hill this week.
All right. Is there any other games that you guys see on the schedule that you're like, this could be a good game this week? A couple that I noticed. I think Jefferson White Oak is an interesting one. I know Jefferson will probably win that game, but I'm interested to see how White Oak competes against Jefferson. White Oak's had a pretty good season so far, so I'm interested to see now that after Jefferson beat Atlanta last week, maybe White Oak, could they compete with Atlanta to get into that playoff picture? So that's a game that I'm interested looking at. Another one that I'm interested looking at, Beckville and Wascom this week is a good one to look at. I think that's going to be an interesting game this week. Kyle, I know did you pick, is there a game of the week that you have guys have picked? Have we mentioned that game yet?
No, actually we have not. And I will be in Van Zant County, Diggs. This is an East Texas school, not a DFW school, but I'll be in Van Zant County for a East Texas battle as the Grand Saline Indians travel down Highway 80 to take on the Edgewood Bulldogs. Grand Saline undefeated this year. Edgewood 4-2 on the season, but they're 2-0 in district play. Grand Saline 1-0 in district play. It's a Highway 80 Van Zant rivalry. These two teams don't like each other. It's gonna be a good one on Friday night. So I'll be in Edgewood.
My mom lived in Hawkins, and whenever we would be going down Highway 80, we'd cut up around Grand Saline and head over to Dairy Palace. You got to go to Dairy Palace if you're in Van Zant County, of course. So,
oh yeah,
that should be a fun one. But you're definitely in East DFW when you're out there.
Oh, here we go. East DFW. And I mentioned it earlier. The games that we'll have on NETSN. I mentioned maybe one, but we'll go down the list. I'll be traveling to Austin, Texas. Be a long road trip for me, as the Brook Hill Guard will be traveling down to take on Hyde Park Baptist on Friday night, 7:00. We'll also have, I think it's going to be Keith will be on the call, as Rusk will host Bullard as they come into town. It'll be interesting to see Russ because, they've had a tough struggle. They had a tough time with Troop a few weeks ago. They're coming off of a bye week. And then the game we mentioned earlier, Garrison and Shelbyville, Larry will be on the call there. And then also Center and Carthage game will be on NETSN. So those are our 4 games. We also it's tentatively, we're looking at the Lovelady Overton game. So we may have a 5th one on the network this weekend. So those are our 5. Another one that's possible will be a Thursday game. I'm looking to go about Cayuga and Carlisle. So that may be on the network as well. So stay tuned for that one. I'm going to be checking with Cayuga here in the early parts this week, and we'll get that out for you. So by the time
the
airs, it may
coach's phone number if you need it
for Cayuga.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Jacob McGee. We talked earlier this year when I was doing the district preview. So great guy, awesome guy.
Awesome. Well, if you'll send that to me, yeah. Well, that by the time this airs, we may have gotten that game scheduled or not. But as we've been covering Carlisle a lot this year, so all that to be said, Diggs, I know you're going to have several games that you're covering. I know it'll be DFW, so we'll forgive you. But let everybody know kind of where you're going to be this weekend.
I actually don't know where I'm going to be on Friday. This is the Plano East bye week, so I have the world is my oyster. I can go to anywhere I want to go this week. Thursday, I'm going to go to Saginaw versus Arlington Heights. The good Fort Worth ISD game, and I don't think we always give Fort Worth ISD enough love in the DFW area. And Arlington Heights is a really good team. But Friday, I don't know. Maybe I'll go see Anna again and think of how they destroyed Chapel Hill. I actually think Anna's not that good this year. I mean, I think they're struggling to make the playoffs.
Well, they're actually in the right classification. That's why they're not as good this year, Diggs.
It's amazing what happens when you're not out studenting everybody by 400 because of population growth. I give that to you for sure. So Friday, I'm a free agent, so hopefully I'll figure it out.
You could go to East DFW and check out Edgewood and Grand Saline.
That's going to be a fun game. I mean, Edgewood is one of those teams that I've gotten wrong a couple of times this year in the other pick'em, and they're putting up some points right now, and that's a fun. I actually watched a family softball game in Edgewood, Lone Oak Edgewood softball game a couple of years ago. So they got nice facilities over there. In East DFW.
Yeah, we thank you for joining us tonight, Professor. And
I miss y'all. Like tonight, I'm gonna go watch. Bad Blood. So then maybe I can start talking wrestling again at some point. I've been just trying to avoid spoilers left and right. I keep seeing words, and I'm like, I don't want to see that word, and I have trying to avoid words right now. Yeah. And I'm just pretending maybe I saw something else.
Wednesday is our Bad Blood review show and Wrestle Dream preview show. So maybe if you get caught up and you're available, maybe you can hop on with us. I know.
Then I got to catch up with AEW for 3 weeks. I
know. Swaggy's already. It's
not as important. AEW is not as important.
And I don't know what happened. For all I know, but I saw Ricochet and Ospreay was going to be on the anniversary show, so I got to get caught up and at least watch that. So.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, Swaggy is already confirmed that he's going to be on Wednesday, so maybe we'll get we've never had all 6 of us on. So it's been me and Kyle and Brandon the last, 3 or 4
I don't think Jeremy exists anymore. I don't think he's a real person. I think he's an AI avatar, a deep fake that just refuses to communicate with me. So we'll have to see.
I think he's still recovering from y'all's a barbed wire table match, I think. Who knows? Well, thanks for this. And Dix, if for those that don't know, they're maybe don't know you personally or know what you do, let them know how they can follow you and everything that you've got going on your Twitter and everything you do.
Yeah, I'm the social media guy for Inside High School Sports. We're a TV show out on NBC5. If you get NBC5 out there, I do rankings, I do picks for them, and I do a lot of social media analysis at Professor Diggs. And I also do weekly picks, and part of my weekly picks include East Texas games and North Texas games out to the big country. So anywhere from Abilene to Texarkana and everywhere in between north of Waco, I'll pick it. So these are games I'm absolutely interested in and fascinated in. And I do, to be fair, I do much worse out on these picks than I do in my hometown picks. But it's still fun to watch because you have to know these teams if you want to know the playoffs, because East Texas is so good in the playoffs. So I got to know Honey Grove and Carthage, and who's going to come out of District 9 4A, because
How did you hear that?
Very well can make the state championship.
East Texas is so good in the playoffs. Man, we need to quote that.
They are.
Well,
we're still dealing with Timpson the way they beat Toller last year. So I mean, there's just
that won't happen again. Not this
things
year.
happen.
Not that team.
Not that team. But still.
Oh man!
Everybody jumped off the bussy.
I sure did. That's going to do it for tonight's episode of Off the Ropes. I'd like to thank the Professor Matt Diggs for joining us tonight. For Mr. Red Zone KO Kyle Owens, I'm Brett Swinney. Mr. NETSN signing off tonight on the Beast and East Show. Make sure you get your picks in, and good luck with your picks, and have a great rest of your week and weekend. See you next week. Good night, everybody.
Lean on your brother tonight. Let your brother count on you every play tonight. Okay? And come out and have fun. The gates are locked. Ain't nobody getting out now. They can't run. The gates are locked. Let's bring the fight to them, guys. Yes, sir. All right, brother. Let's pray.
The Northeast Texas Sports Network is dedicated on delivering the most entertaining sports broadcasts in East Texas. And if you're interested in having your next sporting event streamed live, visit us online